Lost was the best pilot ever, possibly.
Lost was intense.
Lost was confusing.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Fallingtower's Watch the First podcast in which we watch the first episode of a TV show or web series, and we talk about it. By the way, I meant to say Lost was as near a perfect pilot as can be. Best ever.
Wow.
Perfect pilot, maybe. We'll talk about it. How you guys doing?
I'm fantastic.
I'm great.
We are here with Michael Kenyon Rosenberg, as always, who's fantastic. Polina Matveeva, actress from Russia. She's great.
Thank you.
Mike, do you have a quick summary for us?
I sure do.
Oh, what a relief.
After surviving a plane crash in a remote island, 48 survivors try to organize themselves under the leadership of Dr. Jack Shepard. He decides to go look for the transceiver in the cockpit of the plane and travels through the forest with the mysterious Kate and the rock and roll bass player, Charlie Pippin.
Married.
It doesn't say Pippin. Oh, he's married? No, he's Pippin.
He's married. Billy Boyd is Pippin, right?
No, he's Pippin.
No, he's married. Don't trick me. Polina, you be the tiebreaker.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about. Like, he's Charlie. He plays the guitar.
It's Lord of the Rings talk. He was a hobbit in Lord of the Rings. He was definitely.
Oh, the Lord of the Rings. I am actually not a fan, so I watched it once when I was like a child, and I never got into it.
That's okay. Lord of the Rings is a fan of you anyway. So we'll start off while Mike's looking that up.
Yeah, you're right. It is Mary. Yeah.
It's Mary, because I can picture him any time of the day going, what does he say? Huckleberry Fairy.
Right.
That's totally him.
Yeah.
I know there was the hobbits. I know there was the ring. I know there was the very skinny creature that said, "I wish," and that's all I remember. There was also some kind of wizard. So my knowledge of the Lord of the Rings.
Good knowledge.
Mike loves wizards and wizards.
Yeah. I sure do. I also love Lost.
If you were a wizard, Mike, what would your wizard name be?
Burgleby, obviously.
Obviously. Okay. So let's start this off. First things first, before you ever watched Lost, what did you expect, Michael? What did you expect before you watched it? Before you watched it the first time?
The first time, obviously. I mean, because I've seen the whole series a couple times through. But the very first time I watched it, I didn't. So I knew that there was a lot of hype around the show, and I knew that it was there was plane crash on a crazy island, and things were crazy there. But I there was a coworker that I had, and he was really into Lost, and he would always say, "Oh man, Lost today! Oh, it was the craziest episode!" Every week he would say that kind of stuff. And I was like, all right, I guess I better check out this show Lost that everyone keeps talking about. So I was definitely, I knew it was a good show, and I knew that it had a lot of fans of it, but I didn't know really what to expect myself. I was just kind of going into it just because I had heard a lot of good things about it. So I did expect it to be on a desert island and have a plane crash and all like that. So I did expect that, but I didn't really expect some of the crazier things that happened in this episode, but we'll get to later.
Polina, what did you expect before you ever watched it? Did you know it was amazing, or did you?
When I watched it for the first time, I didn't even start it from the beginning. It came out when I was in junior high, and I was just started watching it maybe episode 4 or 5. It was just playing on TV, and I was like, oh, desert island. Oh, people are running, being adventurous, fun, into it. And then, so I kept watching it, and then I eventually downloaded the whole thing and started watching it from the beginning, how everything started. And so I'm like into it. I like the shows where you're like, have to like fight for your life, like run, like because I'm extremely like not athletic. So when people do stuff when they hike, run, and whatnot, being adventurous and athletic kind of like motivates me to move.
That's tough. So like, you never really had any expectations for it. You just kind of started watching it as it.
No, I just bumped into it accidentally. So, but also like back there. So whenever you guys have here in the States, like the hype about a new show, you get those promos, you get those posters, you have this and that. Like we discover new shows once they're like on TV because they don't really promote like shows like that. Maybe they do now. I haven't been in Russia in like a long time, but usually it just goes to movies. When you see like new movies on billboard, with shows, like we'll just watch whatever's on TV. We like it, we watch it. We don't, like we don't. So they don't spend money on advertising new Russia that much.
So
Well,
if you started watching it on like episode 4, then you must have really been lost.
No, it wasn't lost. To me, it was like, oh, they're on an island, shit is happening. So I was into it.
sure.
Like the show got confusing. Like what? End of season 4
I thought,
when you signed up for like one style of the show and then boom, it happened. You're like, wait,
yeah, there was a
that's
writer's strike around season 4.
not what I signed up for. Like, but you keep watching because you're already like 4 seasons in.
Right. Well, we're only talking about the first episode here, and there's definitely some confusing things that are happening in this first episode, especially you kind of crash on a desert island and you hear this monster in the forest. You're like, what the heck is going on?
Right. Like dinosaurs, not dinosaurs? Are we in the Jurassic World?
We're
Like
going to
what's
see
happening?
Godzilla stomping through the forest.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I forgot to hook up my mic.
Ryan.
So I know. So I probably sound so much better now.
You do. Yeah.
Great. Well, I'll tell you what I expected. Because I only watched it for the first time, like I think 3 years ago. I really didn't expect anything. I mean, I knew what it was. I remember you being addicted to it, Mike. I remember
Right.
you saying this is like the best show, or it was at least your favorite show, maybe ever. And people would talk about it. I'd see it on the cover of magazines when I'd go to the grocery store or whatever, but I never watched TV. So
Right.
I didn't expect anything. I was referred to it a few years ago when I was writing something. And I don't think I really had any expectations for it at all. Like I just kind of went in fresh faced. I mean, I knew that people were on a deserted island. I think that's really the extent of what I knew.
Right.
I didn't really expect to like it. I didn't really care, but yeah, really nothing. It was kind of a blank slate there. But here's the more important part. That's what we expected. But Michael, what did we get? When you watched that first episode, what did you get?
Well, when I watched the first episode the very first time, I got hooked, is what I got. Yeah, it was like, okay, all right, I need to know what's going to happen next. I mean, and they excel at that with this show, and then this pilot episode, this first part of the pilot is like a perfect example of how they tease you with stuff, and then I gotta know what's going on. I gotta know the answers to what's happening. They don't give you all the answers, but you do get some answers. Spoilers. We're talking about the first episode though, so I'll try not to jump
They'll never
ahead too
give you
much.
all the answers, no matter how long you watch it for.
No.
Right. So Polina, that was what you expected. You kind of you didn't really have any expectations for it, really.
Yeah.
What did you get when you first watched the first
Honestly,
episode?
I think it's like one of the shows, again, up until, everything changed, like mid-show. I think that what you seek is kind of like what you get. You think, oh, desert island, like adventures, like, some kind of like mystery thing happening. That's what you basically get. Like they're running around, like there's some confusing thing. They're trying to figure out why the plane crashed, how they're gonna survive. Because like a lot of it in the show still gets into like survival. Hey, how do we find fresh water? Hey, how do we like establish like a little community, and this is when Jack becomes like, oh, I am the leader now, basically like self-proclaimed one. Never liked him. So yeah, it's still what you see is what you get. I think like you sign up for like an adventure show on an island. That's what you like get.
Well, first things first. Before we get into all this other stuff that's not important, you just dropped a bomb on us. You never liked Jack.
Yeah.
I
actually wanted to talk about that. He was the main character. Overall, you just didn't like him. What did you not like about him?
He was conceited. He was cocky. He all of a sudden like decided that, hey, I am the main leader now, and now you all have to listen to me. I was really like, honestly, like everybody thought that like, you know, like Sawyer's character was portrayed like, you know, as an a-hole, but I was like, he makes perfect sense. Like if somebody comes up to me and says, hey, of all of those people, I'm the leader now, and now you have to do what I say, I would also probably would have told him where to go.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, let's try to focus just on the first episode, though, because I know I was definitely thinking about Sawyer and Jack and all that relationship and how they're.
But like they do portray him in the very beginning, like, oh, he's like running around, he's like saving everyone. He is, you know, like I guess they try to portray him as this hero to kind of, I guess, justify that he's like the boss now. But
well, he's a doctor. I mean, his instinct is kicking in. Like, I'm a doctor. Yeah. I've got to save these people who are all dying from this plane crash. I've got to like save this guy's leg. I've got to save this woman who can't breathe.
Be like this like hero complex as like, hey, like, you know, this. So like I think that's what they did is in the beginning I was like, oh, this guy he's saving everyone, cool. But like then the longer I watched it, the more I was like, I don't like.
Right, characters definitely evolved. Like, yeah.
When Kate was sewing him like up, that was fun.
So, yeah, which kind of brings me to a little piece of trivia. I don't know if you guys know this, but initially Kate was supposed to be the main character. And Jack, I believe, was supposed to die after the pilot episode, or at least after the second.
Right. He was supposed to be played by Michael Keaton, actually.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What a relief. But what happened was when they wrote it, they're like, they like this character so much and they thought it was just such a good character, and they become, you know, because that happens when you're writing, you just come up with a character that's supposed to be like a secondary or tertiary character and you fall in love with them. And so I kind of want to know, like, do you think it would have been a better show if he had died in the second episode and Kate was the main character? I know this is talking not really about the first episode, but it is something kind of important. I mean, you could keep it to just the first episode and say, would you rather have Kate be the main character?
Well, both Jake and Kate, they were like messed up. Like once they showed all of their like background story and like all of their psychological trauma. So I think it doesn't matter which messed up individual you get as a main character. So I think it could still be like interesting. He was an interesting character to watch. Like besides the fact that I personally was like annoyed by him, but like a lot of people did.
He was annoyed by you too, Polina.
I didn't mind that he told me. Yeah, the main character. So they were all messed up. So I don't think it would change much which messed up character you would get. Like,
got it. Kind of like Game of Thrones, where there's no real good guys.
Game of Thrones, so I have no idea what's happening there.
Oh, check it out. Right. Start on episode 4.
I don't like period shows, and it's kind of like giving this period like medieval vibe. So I know, and also everybody dies, and I do get attached to characters. So I'm like, I know that I'm gonna get frustrated.
But you would have liked it if Jack would have died, though.
Yeah, well, tell you what, with
Game
of
Thrones,
not
attached to him because I didn't like him. So.
Well, with Game of Thrones, just watch the first season. Nobody important dies in the first season. You'll be fine.
I know that it's not true.
Okay, well, Mike, what do you think about the main character,
I
Jack
think
being the
that
main
we
character?
need to have Polina back when we do Game of Thrones, so just to force her to watch the first episode.
I'm good. I decided for myself that I'm never gonna watch it.
What were you saying, Ryan?
That's what
If a
I thought too.
different character except for Jack?
Well, what do you think if Kate were the main character as was intended instead of Jack? Do you think it's better with Jack as the main character, or do you think it would have been
It's
better?
kind of
if
hard to
had he
say
not?
because like I only know Jack as the main character. I mean, obviously later on Kate gets a bigger part too, but especially in this first episode, I think it's good to have Jack as the main character because he's a doctor. He's got those kind of leadership skills to kind of take control of the situation, save people's lives. Okay, he's got some experience in aviation, which is important. So he
Yeah.
knows that there's a transceiver, and he knows like where to go find it, and he knows what it looks like. So I mean, but just based on all those factors, I think he made a good first main character, at least for this first episode.
Mm. Yeah, I think
I think
it's
it
kind of.
was Saeed who had like experience in aviation, not Jack. No?
Well, Jack said that he took some flying lessons, and
Yeah, that's what it was.
he
Yeah, but
had
I think
some
it was
experience.
Saeed who suggested, hey, there's gotta be a transceiver, let's go like find it.
No, that was Jack's idea. Yeah.
So, because I had the benefit of thinking of this ahead of time a little bit, and I was like, it's tough to separate the character from the writing because who knows? You think, okay, Jack's the perfect character for this because he's a doctor. So even if he wasn't the main character, it seems like he would be the main character for the first episode or two, which was the intention. And then he's supposed to die, and then Kate kind of takes over. But like with the writing being as good as it was, maybe you take a character out and it's still good writing. Maybe it's just as good. So it's hard for me to tell, but it was definitely an interesting thought. Kind of like, would the series or would the first episode be just as good if there were no Jack, or if he was just, like Hurley, just kind of a guy that, oh, the doctor's got it. He's handling the lady in labor, but definitely it fits perfectly. And that kind of brings me to my other question that I had, which is when I'm watching this, I'm thinking this is as close to a perfect pilot as I've ever seen. I think Breaking Bad is in that conversation too. I can't think of any others.
That's perfect pilot.
Killing Eve. I did watch the pilot of Killing Eve, and I did not put that up in that category.
I'm just borderline obsessed with it.
So that's perfect. So would you put this up as one of the best pilots you've ever seen? Or, is it top 3, top 5? Do you have another one that you think is the best pilot you've ever seen, or a better model for a perfect pilot, Polina?
Well, I think as a pilot, it's good because it does keep you on edge. It does like leave you like once it ends, like you want to see more. You want to feel like, hey, what happened? What's gonna happen next? And because like a lot of things with like when you mentioned like Breaking Bad, I completely disliked it. I thought it was extremely boring. And a lot of people who are like really love the show, they're like, well, you have to like watch like 5-6 episodes and then you're gonna get into it. And I'm like, I don't want to give a chance to show who takes that long to like get hooked on. You have to be hooked on like in the first minute or two. And I also like I've done like a few focus groups when you like during pilot seasons when you actually watch pilots and then you give like feedback, and basically you're then like responsible if like thousands of people are gonna have a job like the following summer, which is like really stressful. But like I've watched some really good pilots, I've watched some really bad ones when it takes like 45 minutes to get into like, oh well now it's getting good. So Lost is like I think it keeps you hooked like and it keeps like on edge like the whole time. And I think that like so far like right now again my favorite show is Killing Eve, which I don't even care that the main girl who plays like a Russian girl is not Russian. She's like British, but she's doing such an amazing job. So like I got nothing. It's also one of those who's like you want to see more. There's like so much like tension going on, and you just like oh what's next? What's next? Like as long as you keep wanting more, I'm pretty sure like that's like all you need, no matter how they're gonna like achieve that thing that making the viewer wanting more. I think Lost definitely like makes you like wonder, oh, what's next?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about you, Michael? Is this close to a perfect pilot? Were there better ones that you've seen? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think that there is a better pilot that I've seen. I definitely think that This Is Us had a pretty good pilot.
That was the third one, actually. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah, because it kind of weaves it together and leaves you with this kind of I don't want to say trick ending, but it makes sense. But
Totally.
it does kind of like make you go ah, I mean, Lost doesn't really do that, but I agree with Polina that Lost really hits you with the action and hits you with the suspense. The music in Lost, especially in this pilot, is just one of. I mean, it should be a character of its own because in my opinion, it's crucial to the tone, to the suspense that you see in this show. Is the music is just fantastic.
You know, I'm glad that you brought up This Is Us because that's actually the other one, you know, of the more recent ones. For me, that is also pretty close to a perfect pilot. The difference with what made Lost so impressive versus This Is Us versus Breaking Bad, and all three of those should be taught in screenwriting classes, I think. Lost is that it gets you in the first second, it gets you in the first minute, it gets you in the first 5 minutes. Like you are, I mean, the way it develops, it just immediate in the first second, you're like, what's going on? What's this? Why is he in a suit? Why is he on an island? Why is there a dog? Why is he holding a vodka thing? Why is he bleeding? What's going on? Why is he running all of a sudden? Like everything is just like, why? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And then the big reveal, airplane crash, people everywhere. I mean, it's just, it gets you hooked immediately, like just
Right.
immediately. Breaking Bad does that as well, but it does it more with the absurd, which is just like, why is there this guy in his underwear? Why are they in an RV? Like, it's just ridiculous rather than less of a mystery and more of like madness. Whereas This Is Us is, I don't want to say it's a little bit more mature. Maybe it's a little bit more sophisticated in that it doesn't use the gimmicks. It leaves you with thinking that was a great pilot as soon as it ends. Once it ends, you go, wow, that was fucking perfect.
Right.
You know, whereas the other two are just, you think this is perfect from the beginning. This Is Us rewards you for your patience. And then you're just like, wow, this is amazing. I mean, that's the only show I know of that got picked up for 2 seasons based on one pilot.
Wow.
That never happens. They signed them for 2 episodes based on just the pilot.
But like the thing with Lost, like the pilot also like you said, the very beginning when like you know when he opens his eyes and then it takes like there's like whole mystery going on up until you see, oh, there's a plane, and then the way they end it is like, oh cool, they're on an island they're probably gonna like focus on how to survive, and then there's like this whole like thing coming, like sound coming from the woods, so
Right.
they literally like in the very beginning and like there's like the middle, whatnot, you think you know what's going on, and then at the very end, you're like, wait, what?
Mm.
So like I think the beginning and the end, like they made it like perfectly because like just they're trying to figure out what's happening.
Final bits on. Go ahead, Mike.
I just want to say another good thing about a good pilot is it kind of establishes some of the quirks that the show will have going forward, and Lost definitely does that with the flashback to when they're all in the plane before the plane crashes. And obviously, we all know because we've seen the whole show that like flashbacks are a huge part of Lost, and like you can just they always can because there's so much that happened before they landed on the island. In their backstories and just I mean, kind of how they all interwove together too, which is interesting. I don't want to get too far ahead.
Is that John Locke staring into your eyes right now?
No, that's Jack.
No,
Yeah,
it's
Oh,
Jack.
it's Jack. Okay, so that's from the first episode.
yeah
It
this
looks
is
like
from the
he's
first
just fallen
episode.
in love right now. You've got his attention. He likes
My neighbor
you.
just started playing basketball, so I apologize for that.
We're not hearing it, so we're good.
No.
Yeah, just to close out on the perfect pilot idea, would you put this in the category in the running of one of the best pilots?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yes, obviously, yes.
Well, I don't know.
Especially when you like don't know like how it ends.
I feel like if somebody is trying to learn how to write pilots, those three that we're talking about, and maybe Killing Eve, are things that they should watch to just learn how to grab somebody from the beginning and really present. And you're right, Michael. It shows its voice from the beginning. We get it. It's going to be mysteries, and twists and turns and questions and flashbacks to where we learn more about the character, and the flashbacks themselves have mysteries and twists and turns. Anyway, so
I have a question. I want to know.
Yes, you the guy that's being fallen in love with by Jack over here.
I want to know, because I know that I would not do too well on a desert island, but I want to know how you guys feel. How do you guys think that you would do if you were stranded on a desert island?
What's a dream of mine? That's a messed up dream, but like after like I don't know, I know it sounds like they make it like so glamorous, or like adventures. You get to like run and you get to like, it's a cool show, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be like much worse that actually happens. Like I've always wanted to, I'm like every time I fly somewhere, I'm like, oh my god, if we like crash, could it please crash on like an island? But it's also
That sounds
somebody
dangerous.
like who speaks multiple languages and who has like, no social skills. That might be interesting. Like I have the way of communicating with a lot of people. I just choose not to. But I was stranded on a desert island, especially like right now, like since we're all stranded in like four walls like during the pandemic. I would rather be stranded on like a, an island.
Yeah, that's a very interesting analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'd be fine. I like most people, because I think about this actually sometimes, but I usually liken it to living in the past. Like, how would I do 2,000 years ago, for example, or even 500 years ago? How well would I fare? And most people's immediate response is, oh, I'd be fine. But then, if you really think about it, well, look, I wear contact lenses. 500 years ago, they didn't have that, right? What if this was 2,000 or 3,000 years ago? What if there are no glasses? I'm pretty much an invalid. Any guy with like very little fighting skill could still kill me, because I wouldn't even see his swing coming at me. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be useless. I'd be like this guy that's, say, healthy, athletic, and ready to go, but I can't see shit. So what does that mean? I'm an invalid. I'm a loser back in those days, right? Whereas on a deserted island, okay, so it's a little different, because presumably I've got the contact lenses already in my eyes. Presumably I've packed my glasses with me in case they fly out or they run out.
They may or may not drown in the ocean. Right.
So I'd be vulnerable. My vision would make me vulnerable. But beyond that, if I had the contact lenses and they were freshly put in, as in like, I've got the 2-week contact lenses. So what if I'm on the very end of the 2 weeks? They're going to start burning pretty quick, but anyway, beyond that, I'd be fine. I'd get some sunburns, but other than that, I can climb trees. I can swim. I can do whatever, I think I'd be okay. I'd have to, oh shit, I'm vegetarian. I'd have to.
I know. I was gonna say you gotta like learn how to eat fish.
I'm pretty sure
and,
like if you have an option between like dying of starvation and eating a piece of fish, you probably.
Well, that's not the question. Of course I would. Of course I would, to survive, but it would be a difficulty. What if what if you don't eat meat for 10 years and you try to eat fish, and what if your stomach can't handle it, or what if you break in hives? I don't know. These are just the things.
It would, like, people eat bugs and their stomach is not used to it. So I'm sure, like, if you like ease yourself into like whatever you can find to eat, you'll be fine. I think I would actually last very good, because just for the stupid reason that I never drink water, and I'm just really bad at it. And while everyone else around me who is like staying hydrated constantly will be like, oh my God, I need water, I'll be like, day 3, I'm great. I'm used to it. I'm used to being constantly dehydrated. So
it's a pretty good skill, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do have some skills. Like I was a Boy Scout, and like I can probably make rope from vines and stuff like that. I can fish, and I don't know if I could make like a radio from coconuts or anything like that, but
I can make a bra out of coconuts.
I could start a fire. I mean, I have some basic skills, but obviously I'm not. I would definitely lose a lot of weight, just because.
Another reason why I've always wanted to be stranded on an island. I'm like, that's like you don't even have to try, or you're gonna lose weight.
You're just trying to stay alive. You're gonna lose weight. You have to hike to go find water.
And the diet they have there is like, it's kind of like I think like later on Hurley brought it up, kind of like, oh, I thought it was great, like, fish, bananas, perfect, and then
crab, running away from smoke monsters, that'll get you in shape real quick.
I discovered like once I have like I never run. I'm really bad at running. Like we just established that I'm not athletic, but I went on a hike, I think last year, and it took me like a weird route. There was like a decent one, but it took me on some kind of like goat trail, so it was like this thin, and apparently there were like rattlesnakes. And once I discovered there's a rattlesnake nest, I discovered that I have no problem running uphill for like a long period of time at all. Like I had no shortness of breath. I'm good. I'm golden. I can run uphill when I have to. So hey, there's.
You just need to be running away from something.
Right.
That's your exercise regimen right there.
You just need motivation.
Yeah,
like,
just go
and run. Like this is great.
Just find a dangerous animal and run away from it.
Okay, that was a good question. That was a fun one.
Thanks.
Also, I had another thing that I kind of wanted to discuss, which was based on that first episode. It's kind of tough to tell because we're really focusing on Jack and then the Ballad of Jack and Kate. But did you have a favorite character there, or if it's Jack, do you have a second favorite character?
Based only on this first episode, though, right?
Right.
I mean, that's the tough part, because like really the only person that we get introduced to at all is Jack. We get a little bit of Kate, we get a little bit of Charlie, but Jack is the one that we really learn the most about. But yeah, definitely. I guess based on the first episode only, I would say probably Charlie. He seems the most interesting.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Polina?
Again, I was obsessed with Kate and Sawyer. Like that was like that my whole thing. Nothing else matters but Kate and Sawyer. They had like the most amazing chemistry. But like again, like the first, even though I don't think that show really has like a lead character, because then later they give a backstory on like all of them. So there's no really like they all lead, like on Ryan's background, all of those people standing on the beach, they're essentially all of them are lead. But like in the pilot, we don't really get much of anything except Jack, like because he's the one running around like saving everybody, and then him, like Kate and Charlie, they go to find the like transceiver, and then we don't know anything about Kate yet. Like that would later be like what, So I don't think I have like I don't even like, I do not dislike Jack yet. I do not like him yet. I don't know anything about anyone yet.
We get a little bit about Charlie. We find out he's a bass player in like a rock band, and I guess they
but he's like, oh, have you heard of me? Have you heard of me? I know where you're
listening. Hey, y'all, everybody.
See, I always thought it was like, you are everybody.
I thought it was hey, all everybody. That's kind of weird.
It's you all everybody. Yeah. So I don't know. For me, like, I don't even know if there
Dog.
were that many characters I really liked, but I feel like you have even a tiny little snippet for you to be like, I like that character. Like you see cool guy, I forgot his name, cool guy smoking the cigarette, ooh, some guys are like Sawyer, ooh, I like the bad boy. Then you got the guy with the orange peel mouth, John Locke. Oh,
John Locke,
right there.
yeah.
John Locke. Now, of course, he becomes a much, much, much better and interesting.
I just like that scar over his eye. It's so. I mean, just to see the character, what he looks like. He's got that scar over his eye. He's like meditating on the beach. We don't learn a lot about him, but he's definitely someone who you're like, oh, that's going to be somebody.
Yeah, I want to look at him a little bit more.
The Lion King reference over there. I was like, oh, later you find out, oh, you're shady.
also Hurley, Hurley, you got something that you can latch on to because, when they dive, there's the explosion, they dive, he falls to the ground, and he says, stay with her, and he goes, I'm not going anywhere. That's funny. It gives you...
Hurley is very likable. There we go. Yeah, Hurley. He is very likable, I think, throughout, like, the whole thing, because he's just, like, I don't think there wasn't, like, a time where Hurley was, like, I hate you, and I hate you, and I hate you. Like, he's very, like, likable, just character who's, like, doesn't really have a problem with anybody.
Right.
So that's the thing is, even though they focused on Jack, and secondarily focused on Kate, and tertiarily focused on Charlie, and everybody else just got little bits, they gave even just those little bits or 2 or 3 lines or 5 lines or whatever they gave to everybody else was enough for me and for us to understand what kind of character they are, like the little kid that says, that's not how you spell bodies, or, whatever like that. It's a smart kid. Hurley's kind of a dumb guy, but he's funny. John Locke's a mystery. Sawyer's the cool guy. Charlie's kind of the nice guy that has some weird stuff to him. I mean, I don't know. Charlie was the one I wanted to like from the very beginning, just because he was in Lord of the Rings. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, this guy's the only guy I really liked from the beginning. I don't know if his character ended up being the best, but that was the one that I wanted to like from the get-go, I'd say.
I don't know though. I think like in the pilot, what do you think those characters would be like? And then when you like later find out about them, it's like totally different thing.
Right, but we're only talking about the first episode right now.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they're doing there.
They basically kind of like highlight how each of them reacts to this like sudden stressful situation.
Well, yeah, that's what they're doing. They're setting these characters up as a certain way so they can break your expectations later. But
my favorite character is the dog. That's like all I'm gonna say. Like, cute laugh like in the jungle.
That's allowed.
Yeah.
I'm just here for the dog. What's his name? Vincent.
That is an acceptable answer.
We like that answer.
Vincent.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, I forgot what the story was with Vincent, but it doesn't matter. Oh, there's also Sally. Oh, you don't have to tell us. It's okay. It's just the first episode.
Dog.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, even in this episode, he does mention Vincent, and I don't think that they mentioned that it was a dog or that the dog was his or anything like that. But he definitely does mention that name.
Mm-hmm. I think he says something like, "Let's look for Vincent" or something like that.
No, yeah, they definitely like establish like who Vincent is, and like so Vincent is the hero of the pilot.
It's a cute one too.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Michael, you seemed like you had another question to ask, and we kind of jumped over it. What was that?
No, I did. I know what I would do.
Okay.
Probably poop my pants. But what would you do if you heard a legitimate monster, like the monster that they hear in the jungle?
That's a tricky question. But
in what particular scene? Like when you're
let's just say the first time that they hear the monster they're all on the beach. No, it's kind of towards the middle of the episode
when they're all on the beach and they hear something out.
Right, and they're like, oh, okay, whew, all right, man, we just finished getting through this plane crash. Okay, man, that was a stressful situation we were all in, and then
what was the end of the episode? When Charlie's just, there was like a close up on Charlie, he's like terrific. Like it was the middle of the night, they were just chilling by the fire, and like
well, this is before that. The first night, they're all on the beach,
Right.
and then they all just and then they all just kind of hear something, and then they go like, "Did you hear that?" Whatever, and it even shows them the next morning. People were saying, was it like a dog or what? Whoa, what did that come? They're
Are you
trying
sure
to
you guys want to go for that transceiver? There was all that weird noise last night. That's my impression.
Well, I'll tell you what I would have done, I think, is when I hear that, the first thing you want to do is gather everybody together.
Right.
For your own safety, for their safety. You want to make sure it's nobody's stomach. So everybody get together, like you kind of got to
early as that you
got to assess the situation. You have to bring everybody together and assess the situation and figure out what it is, who's in danger, how to get away from it. And then if it's just the sound, what can you do? You just make sure everybody's safe. You gather together. I think that's what I would have done.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Polina?
So just then they still don't have this sense of like a community that, we need to gather everybody around. They still have this thing kicking in, like, I need to save my ass, because like they don't know each other yet. They don't know who's who, like what's happening. So I don't think there's no sense of the community yet, and like they don't have a plan yet. So at this point they're just like, well, that happens. So what do I do? Not what do we do, but like what do I do? And then I think with me, like right now, I'm also realizing like get like a parallel with this pandemic thing. At this point, I probably would be like, all right, what else? Because there was a plane crash. I'm covered in like blood. I'm covered in scars. I'm hungry. There's this, there's this, there's this, there's that. And I was like, oh, there's a monster. Cool. Like kind of like right now. Oh, there's fires in Australia.
Yeah.
Oh, there's pandemic. Oh, they're releasing like murder hornets. Oh, the lockdown is extending till like August. At this point, I'm just like, cool.
Yeah. There's aliens. Aliens are real. All right,
There's
whatever.
Aliens. Yeah. So at this point, I'm just like, whenever I see something else happening, I'm just like, cool. What else? Cool.
Yeah.
Noted.
And
so,
my gardener killed one of my pepper plants.
Like throughout that, like first half of the episode, they already have been through so much.
Right.
So they aren't even like screaming. They're all just like stand up and they're like, cool.
Well, there's some people that think like, Shannon, she's like, oh, they're gonna come get us. It's no problem. They know where we are. It's fine. They track these kinds of things. They're gonna be here tomorrow. So
which one is Shannon?
She was the kind of the prissy girl who's her brother came up to her.
Oh, at first she's just screaming.
Right.
That was fun.
That's why that was like the good thing, how they showed like how differently everybody's like reacting to stress. Like how like
exactly.
they compare her and her brother, who's like she's just standing there screaming even though nothing is wrong with her, and he's just running around like looking for pens.
Right. He's trying to help. He doesn't really know how to help.
See, that's another character people could latch onto. That was hilarious. He said something about, I hear you got to do something with a pen or something.
Don't you have to like poke a hole in her throat with a pen? He's like, you got a pen? He's like, no. Go get one. He's like,
go fetch one.
Like, go look for a pen. Just kind of like go get away from me.
And then the dude comes back and he's like, I didn't know which one would be good. And he's like, what a hero. Thanks, buddy. You did it. Thanks. Now go fetch me some coconuts.
Yeah.
Now go find paper. Dry ones.
Yeah. I would also like a lobster thermidor with a nice balsamic reduction.
Right.
What's a thermidor?
I don't know.
Oh, I thought it was an actual thing.
No, a lobster thermidor is like a lobster dish. I don't really know exactly what it is.
Boiled lobster, essentially, I think.
If you know what a lobster thermidor is, write us a note in the comments.
Oh, yeah. Also in the comments below, tell us what you would do. Number one, what you would do on a deserted island or when you hear a monster. What would you do? Would you run? Would you panic? Would you take a nap? Would you take a nap? It looked nice until they started raining. And number two, and very importantly, what did you think about, should Kate have been the main character? Should it have been Jack? What do you guys think? That's the big give and take right there, is who should have been the main character. Some people were very disappointed that Kate wasn't the main character.
But also, I think it was the original what they were planning to do. They wanted to make like the character of Kate kind of like older, like kind of like Rose. So that's like what they wanted Kate to be like.
Gross?
No, Rose was the old black lady who was
like the older one who I think in the first episode she was just like sitting there just staring at the ocean. I think she was just like she was like that for a while. So I think that's how they wanted, like once they decided that Jack is going to be the main character, they wanted Kate to be like kind of like her and Jack to be like, you know, friends, and like her to be like this older like lady. Then they changed it to like a more cliche way of things.
By the way, when I was living in Los Angeles, I met Rose I met the actor that played Rose at Target one day, and I was like, do you play Rose on Lost? And she's like, yeah. I was like, oh, I love your character.
Wow.
Like a little geek out moment, like
fangirling. Fangirling, yeah.
Okay. Well, lucky you that you met. One final question I wanted to ask, and this one is very important to me. This is very important because of its importance level.
All right.
Is Evangeline Lilly. She's the lady that plays Kate. She also plays Turiel in The Hobbit, 2 of the 3 Hobbit movies.
She's also the ant lady.
Exactly.
Wasp.
Also Wasp. Now, that's some pretty cool nerd cred. Lost, Marvel, and Lord of the Rings, right? Tolkien stuff. But, you know, she's done a bunch of other stuff. You know, she's got a lot of fans. What is your favorite Evangeline Lilly character and or role? What's your favorite out of all of them? There are no wrong answers.
I'm not gonna lie. I only watch.
Oh,
I'm not really like into like superhero types of movies, but I only watched Ant-Man because she was in it. Because
Wow.
like I used to have a low key like crush on Evangeline Lilly because she's like just so beautiful, and she has like those green eyes, she has those freckles, she has like this perfect looking body. I'm like, just marry me already. But no, definitely Kate was her, like you can't top that. Like once you play something like that, you can't really top that. But now like, and I was like really like a huge fan of her, like mostly like for her looks. But then recently, once the pandemic started, and she was like, this pandemic is like, you know, BS. We're just doing all business as usual. Like basically all of my feelings for her kind of like went out the window.
Oh, so she's like a pandemic denier or something like that?
I don't like not a denier. She kind of like, yeah, she was basically like, well, like, yeah, there's something happening, but we are like doing business as usual. It doesn't matter that pandemic is happening. I'm like, and I'm usually very well able to separate like the art from the artist, but that was one of those things. I'm like,
well, I don't know how she could say it's business as usual, because this business, the Hollywood business, has completely shut down 100%. So I don't know how it could be business.
No, but she meant business as usual, not so much like the Hollywood work, but so much like she still takes her kids to dance classes. Like they're not wearing masks. They still go to
oh, she's an anti-masker.
Well, dance classes are canceled too right now.
It was like a couple of months ago. I don't know.
Got it.
Still, she's still like that, but
it was before
kind of, like,
the lockdown.
In the like sensitive like place. I'm like, oh, but I loved you so much. Like, you're literally like,
oh, I used to like you.
Yeah, but like as we're trying to separate like art from the artist, like aside from the fact that I'm no longer her fan.
Well, then you could be like, God, Kate, I used to like you. Now the Wasp would have never said this, so I'm still good with the Wasp. But that's a total Kate move.
I don't think you can top Kate in Lost, because still, like, even like after like a lot of other things that she's done, like a lot of other movies, everybody still knows her as Kate from Lost. They don't know her as the Wasp lady. They don't know her as like the elf lady. They don't know her as the girlfriend of Hugh Jackman from like The Man of Steel. They still know her as Kate from Lost. Like that's just kind of like Jennifer Aniston. She's done so much in the past 20 years, but everybody still knows her as like
Rachel.
Rachel from Friends.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Like there's no way you can like kind of like step away from that.
Well, what about you, Michael? What's your favorite Evangeline Lilly character?
I mean, I'm just have to say Kate too. I mean, well, here's the thing, Ryan. Here's the thing.
All right, I'm ready for the thing.
Lord of the Rings. I mean, The Hobbit is. I mean, she's only in. I mean, it's like 3 movies, and then The Wasp. That's like 2 movies, or maybe 3 with Avengers or whatever. But like Lost is like six seasons, right? 6 seasons of like
Right.
how many shows per season. So you have. It's kind of like the whole Star Trek versus Star Wars debate, where you just have there's so much more of Kate, and so you get to know that character so much better than any of these other characters that you just see her in a few movies. And so I think that's the reason why I really and obviously this is the first thing I've seen her in as well, and so that there's something to that, kind of what Polina was saying.
That was your first
Rachel,
Evangeline love.
She was my first.
But plus, she's also not one of those actors who makes like 3 movies every year.
Right.
So like, there's only so much to like to choose. They're all like big blockbusters, like everything that she's in. But there are only so many, and like I don't know, like Lost definitely like for the reason that Michael said, like it definitely tops it just because of like the how long it's been, and because like it's like essentially the first thing that we.
Well, that's all I've seen her in is those 3 things anyway, too. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
me
I'm sure
too,
she's done other things, but
that's enough to decide between the 3. And I will go differently.
Okay.
And I will say
Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit.
Yeah, Turiel. Just because, come on, Lord of the Rings. Now, obviously, Kate was a much better character. There was way more depth to Kate than Turiel, and it was just a better all-around character. Because Turiel was just shoehorned into something where she really wasn't a part of The Hobbit.
Right.
But, whatever. I like Lord of the Rings. I like The Hobbit. I love Tolkien. So that's mine right there. I'm hitting that button. By the way, speaking of hitting buttons, make sure to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon so that you get notifications and you can watch all these fun episodes of Polina. And maybe we'll stop by sometimes, Michael and I. Speaking of Polina, let's talk about you for a minute, shall we?
Sure, let's talk about me.
So you're an actress. Did you move? You're from Russia. What part of Russia?
Siberia.
Wow.
Not even kidding. Also, it's not just woods. We don't have like rows and rows of prisons. I'm from a city. We do not travel by dogs or bears. Just to like get
I was
that
gonna
out
ask, so thanks for clearing that up. Yeah.
Just to like get out of the way, because I've had legit questions like this. I'm like, oh, Siberia, what did you do? I'm like, what?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of steppe, topography too. But look, Siberia itself is bigger than the entire United States. So what part of Siberia? You got to still kind of narrow it down for us.
Like, even if I tell you, I don't think like
west, north,
your guys
east,
like intellectual abilities, but like I will tell you the name of the city, you probably will have no idea like where it is.
We wouldn't. But is that the western part of Siberia?
Not from the woods. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay. We'll just have to guess if it was on the west or the east. I'm guessing it was the western part of southwestern part of Siberia.
I'll guess the northeastern.
Kamchatka. That's what you're thinking of, Michael. Kamchatka
That's not Siberia.
Peninsula.
Yeah, that's like a different region.
That's in Siberia.
Kamchatka is not Siberia.
Okay. Well, look, everybody Google it.
In the
comments below.
It's a different region that's like towards like the end, like
all the way on the east. Yeah, it's a peninsula.
Yeah, like closest probably would be to Alaska. I'm somewhere like near China.
Okay. Southeast-ish.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And you moved to LA to be an actress, or you moved to LA first and then became an actress?
I moved to LA first for that purpose, but I started like pursuing acting once I moved here because like where I'm from, there's not really much like acting going on, and I didn't want to move to like Moscow and whatnot. So I moved here and still trying to like figure it out because like my casting is tricky because like I look like I'm Russian, but I don't look Russian. I don't have that very thick like accent that's supposed to be Russian. So it's like,
So is Moscow the big place to act in Russia then? Is that what
well, that's the capital. Like Moscow and St. Petersburg is kind of like where you go if you want to pursue something artistic in Russia. You go like to the biggest city there is. My city is mostly known for like colleges and universities. Because like I am originally like I lived in like a tiny village up until I was like 10, and then we moved to like my city so that it has just good universities, it has like all of this stuff, and then Polina like dropped out of college and moved to LA. So there was that.
I'm just looking at maps of Siberia for fun.
Ryan loves maps. He's a map guy.
So what's your favorite role that you've ever had as an actress here in Los Angeles? Do you prefer like funny roles? Do you prefer serious roles? And what's your favorite?
I love drama. I love when I have to be like I'm really good at crying on cue, and I'm just like I also like I'm
Scary.
kind of cries all the time. Who's like, there's like a sad movie about a puppy, I'm gonna be crying for 3 days, and like getting back to Lost when like the couple that I wanted to be together at the end did not end up together. I cried for a week. It affected me like very deeply. I'm not gonna give any spoilers, but I can tell you guys like off screen. Like who I wanted to end up together, and they didn't end up together, and I cried for a week every time I thought about it. So I just love that kind of stuff. I'm also like all this like dramatic and sad, but in like everyday life, people are like, oh my god, you're so funny, you should do comedy, and I don't have comedic timing, so it's something I guess I could work on, but I'm not picky at this point. Like I'm not there yet to be picky.
Is there a particular role that you've always wanted to play, like, or a particular genre? Would you have wanted to be in a Western or sci-fi?
I would love to play a psychopath. Oh, so bad.
See, that's funny right there.
I love like the freaking like that TV show, like The Killing Eve. I was like Jodie Comer is living like my best dream. Like the character is Russian. She's a psychopath. She gets to murder people. She has like no. She doesn't like read the room at all. She doesn't have any like filter, and I'm just like, I can relate to this so much. I'm like, well, except like walking around and murdering people.
I was gonna ask. I wasn't gonna ask.
Just because I'm Russian doesn't mean that, you know.
Have you always wanted to be a psychopath?
I don't think I am one. I hope I'm not one.
Yeah, it's more of a mental condition.
But like a lot of things, like whenever I watch, you know, sociopath and psychopath in movies, when they're just like, oh, I feel like saying that you're an asshole, and they just do it without any filter. I'm like, that makes sense.
Now, what is the difference between a psychopath and a sociopath?
Well,
I'll tell you. Understood that.
I'll tell you. A sociopath is somebody, you know, in general, that they're not really, they don't have empathy for people. So they can't tell if they're hurting people. They don't really know, you know, how to prevent from hurting people, and they're not connecting to people. So they might harm people, and they're just thinking about themselves. They're not really seeing how they're affecting or harming people outside of them, right? Whereas a psychopath is, it kind of has that, but they actually enjoy harming others. They're sadists. So
yeah, they have their kind of like kinks, and like for example, like they can like get off on, for example, like killing people.
Right. So
but like because both of them, they don't have this like filter. What like basically they say whatever they think, and I kind of like I do that. So I think that's why I can relate to those characters in movies. When like I would be watching something with my roommate, because like who says that? I'm like,
So you'd be more of a sociopath then, because you're not. If you enjoy harming others, then you're a psychopath.
We're talking about acting, so I would love to play a psychopath who just gets off on like harming people. There's just like so many things happening with their eyes and their face, and you can just like say how much they're like enjoying it, but also the one who cries a lot. So kind of like.
Actually, lastly, here's a question for you. If you were to ever write a TV series, not to act in, just something that you would enjoy writing, what would it be?
Me?
Yeah.
Probably something that has a lot of stream of conscious going on in the dialogue. Kind of like maybe in the style of what's the show? Fleabag, but without breaking the fourth wall. So like that's something I do not enjoy on TV, when somebody like breaks the fourth wall. So basically it would be something kind of like, but I'm like I wish I could like write. I tried, and like unfortunately it's I'm not a great writer.
Well, we're going to include your social media in the description box below. So everybody check out Polina. Check out her hilarity and her psychopathic tendencies.
I don't have psychopathic tendencies. We talked about who I would love to play, because I can relate to like no filter thing. I do not have any psychopathic tendencies.
If you're a casting director,
I'm insane.
If you're a casting director and looking for somebody that can play it,
they're not gonna cast like an actual psychopath to play a psychopath, because that's like dangerous. Come on, like no, like I don't want, like, just get that out of the way. Like guys, I'm actually very lovely. I don't.
Yeah, that's what we.
So if you'd like to cast a very lovely lady to play a psychopath
or sociopath,
look no further.
Polina is your gal. So check this out. We've got a couple minutes left. As Mike likes to call it, the terrible twos are up next.
Mike is always that.
He's always like terrible twos, terrible twos. Everything's terrible twos, terrible twos. So here are the final two questions, and it's rapid fire because we only have like 2 minutes left. So, Michael Kenyon Rosenberg.
Terrible twos and two.
Yeah, number one is scale of 1 to 10. What would you give this first episode? Just the first episode.
9.5.
Polina, scale of 1 to 10. What would you give this first episode?
Like 9.
Wow, very good. I would also give it a 9.5.
Yeah,
I would give it a 10, but there's just the end. There are a couple little nitpicky things where I was like, 9.5. That's still the highest I'll ever go.
Right.
That's the highest number. So,
but we're also a little bit like, subjective, because we like all seen the whole thing. So
right. But so check this. Oh, and by the way, I got a 9.3 on IMDb. That's an incredible number for a pilot. Wow. So secondarily, the second part of the Terrible Twos is if you had only watched this and you've never seen the rest of the series or whatever, would you watch the second? You watched the first episode for the purposes of this podcast, but would you watch the second, Michael?
Well, I think that looking back to when I actually did watch the first episode for the first time, and I really had, like I said, no expectations of it, because I just heard from a bunch of people, "Oh, you got to watch this show. It's a great show." And I was like, "All right, I'll watch it." But then I watched this first episode, and I did watch the second. So yes. I would say yes.
Polina, based just on the first episode, not the first.
Oh yeah, because it's there is stuff to like. Oh, what's gonna happen next?
Yeah,
that's all I need to keep watching.
Absolutely, I would too. I'd be like very impressed by the first episode, and you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that wouldn't watch the second episode after a while, unless they have like actual biases against it, where they say like, I hate shows that give a mystery, or I hate that actor, or I can't stand that trope about islands, whatever. I mean, if they're just watching TV, everybody would want to see the second episode. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I think that's all the time we have for today. In fact, I know it because as Mike always likes to say, there's nothing that goes after the terrible twos, right? How you always say that?
Well, no, but there is something that goes after the terrible twos.
What is it?
This podcast.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, that's how
Ryan. Right.
Well, okay. So I guess what I'm trying to say is this podcast was neither psychopathic nor sociopathic.
This podcast was a psycho killer. Qu'est-ce que?
That means what's this in French?
It's a song by the Talking Heads.
Oh, okay. Good knowledge. What about you,
Like,
Polina?
like, why are we friends now? Am I supposed to say something too?
Yeah, say this podcast was something.
This podcast was entertaining and nobody was harmed.
Big win. Great. Well, thanks very much. This has been Falling Towers Watch the First podcast, celebrating 20 years of Falling Tower, by the way. We started it when we were 2 years old. Watch the first 20 years Falling Tower. Give us a subscribe. Give us some likes. Put some comments below. There's a lot of stuff to talk about in the comments section. And check out Polina on Instagram and those kind of social media things like TikTok or whatever, right? Thanks very much. And we watch the first episode so that you don't have to, by the way. See ya.